for refusing to give my brother my kidney and for being rude about it? Obviously, I don't have to give my kidney to anyone, but I'd like to know if I'm morally in the wrong for this or if it's an unreasonable request. I'm 23 male and have two brothers, James, 29 male, and Damien, 37 male. Our parents were horrible to me. Can't get into much detail for reasons, but it started when my dad cheated, back when I was 11, and they both hated each other but refused to divorce. So they took it out on me because James was almost an adult and rarely ever home, while Damien had already moved out years before. The key here is that James did it too. He would blame things he did on me, or make something up to get me in trouble when he knew how badly our parents would punish me. Generally, he was horrible to me, and I don't really consider him to be my brother after everything. Anyway, I moved in with my friend M, 24, when I was 17 and never looked back. I'm still living with them and their girlfriend, if it matters. I didn't have much contact with either of my brothers until a year ago when I started talking to Damien again. He apologized for not being there or helping me when I was a teenager and wanted to try having a relationship, and I agreed. He's been really nice, all my friends like him, and I truly feel I can call him my brother again. Recently, James got my number. Damien gave it to him. He called me and asked to talk. He basically said that he wanted to make amends and invited me for dinner with his family so they could meet me. He never apologized or anything. I told him that his family is welcome to come meet me at any time, but I didn't care to meet him. He got pissed and eventually spat out that he needed my kidney. He didn't give very many details, but the gist is that he needs a new kidney as one of his failed, and Damien, who talks to James on the regular, can't give his for some reason. I don't know if he'll die without one. To be honest, I have no idea how stuff like that works, and like I said, I didn't get much info from him. I don't want to give him mine though. After everything, I don't think he deserves my kidney. But I tend to be emotional about this stuff. So, honest opinions? Am I the a-hole? Edit. I think I might be the a-hole because if my brother would die, / be horribly sick from this, again I don't know much about it so I don't know, he does have a wife and a young daughter. Also, if I'm an a-hole for not really caring about him after everything. I asked Damien why he gave James my number, and he claimed to not know how bad things were and thought I'd be okay with it. I told him he should have asked me first, and he agreed and apologized, and told me that he didn't know James would ask me that. Now for the top comments. Not an a-hole. He still doesn't care about you. He just has a use for you. He can go on the donor registry like everyone else. Kidney doctor here. To emphasize, you don't die just because your kidneys fail at all. You have options. You can choose between hemodialysis or peritoneal dialysis and then you wait for a transplant, deceased donor. Nowadays, people can live many years while on dialysis. I've seen some live around 40 years, while having a normal life, working, having children, and much more. Yes, your quality of life decreases, and yes, of course, a transplant is the best option, but not being able to have one right away is not the end of the world. Just wanted OP to know that. That being said, holy crap, big not a-hole, regardless of the info that I just provided. Your brother is an entitled a-hole. Hahaha, not an a-hole. Dude couldn't even not be an a-hole long enough to ask for you a body part. He clearly doesn't need it that badly. So basically, James was awful to you over and randomly contacts you, doesn't apologize, and shouted about needing your kidney. How I interpret that is that he only wanted something to do with you after it could be of use to him. He doesn't see you as a brother, just a resource to make use of. Not an a-hole. Plus, can't he live with just one kidney? Oh, he already lost one of them before this. Sorry I worded it weirdly, lol. But yeah, what you said makes sense. Thanks. You might not even be eligible. You'd still have to be tested. You have every right to just say no, but if it's easier, go get tested and tell the doctor you're unwilling. Then they'll say that you're not an eligible donor, and that will be the end of it. Not the a-hole. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my cheating dad's hospital bills? My dad cheated on my mom with another woman and had a kid together. Dad left us for said woman and is now living with her. He recently had a heart attack, and hospital bills are piling up, already exceeding his insurance limit. Now his siblings, who have tolerated his behavior and even let the woman and the kid live with them temporarily without our knowledge while dad is in the process of moving out of our home, or forcing and guilting me and my siblings to shoulder his hospital bills because he's still our father after all. Am I the a-hole for refusing to shell out for his hospital bills? Would I be the a-hole if I block off any form of communication with my dad's side of the family? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. His finances are not your responsibility. If his side of the family are harassing you, block them all and enjoy the peace and quiet. This, OP is definitely not the a-hole. OP isn't a slave. OP can do whatever they want with their money. OP has no obligation to spend a bunch of money on a cheating a-hole. If they want to help dad, then they can if they wish to. OP doesn't have to. You know what is coming. If his siblings think that he is so great and so worthy of help, then they are free to help him as much as they wish. He left your mother some time ago if he has a child with a new woman. That means that he voluntarily left the financial protections of that marriage. Let the new woman's family help. He made his choices. Now he has to live with the consequences. "He's still your father" is an empty refrain from people who cared not a whit about what being a father meant when you and your siblings were hurting. Not the a-hole. Just like he's still their brother, so they can pay. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. He chose his life with his new family. Let him sit with that decision. Your dad broke your family unit. Your dad's siblings are allowing your dad's behavior to be acceptable. Let them know that your dad has an entire family on his new girl's side to ask for money. Your dad's siblings do not sound like the type of people I would want in my life. Then, if you're like me, let them know if universal healthcare was a thing, then your dad wouldn't be in this situation. Give them the contact information to their state's political representation and encourage them to make changes to the healthcare system. The next story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for not saving my kidney for my brother? My brother needs a kidney. We've spoken about it before and he doesn't want to take mine at all. For me, it would be the last possible option. I have young children, and it would be months before I'm back on my feet. I have a few physical issues that cause pain, and one of the painkillers I use apparently isn't great on kidneys. I am not perfectly fit and healthy, but I'm more focused on our kids at the moment than spending time at the gym/playing sports. This has become a problem for my mother because she thinks I should be looking after my kidneys better in case my brother needs one of mine. She wants me to stop taking half my painkillers when I struggle to walk and instead call her to look after my kids. I'm torn here because I love my brother and I want to help him, but I also don't think my mother is right here. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. You aren't an organ cooler for your brother. Not the a-hole. Also, OP is expected to be in so much pain that she can't look after her kids for an undefined amount of time. OP, your mom is making a ridiculous request. Info, have you actually done the test to see if you're compatible? Because it could be a complete non-argument. She will prioritize her kids. You will prioritize yours. Every day spent with your children is precious, and they need a mother, not a grandma. Not the a-hole. She prioritized one of her kids, not both of them. Not the a-hole. Your mother is prioritizing your brother's health above yours, and that's definitely not right. It reminds me of stories when a child is born sick and a second child is conceived to basically harvest their organs for the older child. I don't necessarily think that's what's going on here, but your mom needs to back right off and realize that you're trying to stay as pain-free as you can. Edit. Plus, your brother said he doesn't want you to give up a kidney for him anyway. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents I can't forgive my siblings for them? I am my parents' only child. When I, 21 female, was a kid, my half-siblings from my mom's first marriage did not take my arrival well. In part because their dad was an ass who didn't want my mom to remarry and poison them against me. In part because they thought it was gross that I wasn't their dad's kid as well. My mom actually let them go live with their dad after years of them acting out against me and my dad. They called us names, bullied me relentlessly, and no amount of therapy and discipline helped. One time, I was coloring a picture of my family and the oldest, who was 13 at the time, got into my face and told me to stop drawing us all because they hated me and didn't want someone gross like me being their family. My mom told him to apologize. He told her to get freaking rid of me. She took away all his stuff and sent him to his room. He blamed me. He told me if I had never been born, his and my sister's life would have been better, and that they and their dad used to pray together that I wouldn't be born. I was maybe like 5 at this point. Another time, my mom was trying to help the bond by taking one of them out with me at a time. And it was my mom, my sister, and me at this particular time. She wandered off repeatedly and said she didn't want to hang out with me. My mom tried really hard to get her to engage, and we left when my sister found one of her friends there and told her I was still wetting the bed at 6, and wasn't I so gross. My mom punished her for that too. Again, it was seen as all my fault. I think it might have been some after that when my mom agreed to let them stay with their dad. They still continued talking crap about me to their friends. They invited mom to their birthdays and high school graduations, but not me or my dad. I actually ended up with a lot of issues because of them. Low self-esteem followed, and I was bullied repeatedly in school. At first, because of the esteem issues, and then some kids knew my siblings didn't want me and used that to hurt me. At 16, I was diagnosed with depression and was in a really bad place. I'm in a better place now, and my siblings have apologized to my parents for how they acted. My parents want me to give them a chance to apologize to me and to be in my life, but I don't think I'll ever be able to. A lot of stuff they said to me stuck in my head, even more than a decade later. I do believe they might have grown and realized their dad was wrong to say and do what he did. My parents think I'm being unfair and have asked me to do it for them even if I don't want to do it for me or my siblings. I told them I can't. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. My parents think I'm being unfair and have asked me to do it for them even if I don't want to do it. I think your parents are being unfair expecting you to make them feel better. Told me if I had never been born, his and my sister's life would have been better, and that they and their dad used to pray together that I wouldn't be born. Geez, that kid has issues. Not an a-hole, OP. I wouldn't want anything to do with them. Your parents need to get a grip. Both of them said things like that to me a lot. Some of it really dark and not what you would expect to hear from kids their age. I also know some stuff from grandparents about when I was born and the first 2 or 3 years of my life that my parents would not like me knowing. I'm really sorry. That sounds super rough. I hope you can stay in that better place. Don't let them pull you back into that mess. It was. There's a lot of stuff that went on in the first few years of my life, and I honestly don't think I am still fully better after it. I'm just in a much better place than I was before. No a-holes here. Leaning towards not the a-hole. Forgiveness is between you and the person who wronged you. Third parties might hope it happens, but it's not their issue. What they did to you has lasting effects. They were kids too. Kids who were dealing with a crappy situation too, with insecurities over parents splitting, scared of a new baby taking their mother away and their total a-hole father making it all so much worse, and, reading between the lines, probably encouraging the resentment of you to gain advantages. Which worked when he got the kids. That they and their dad used to pray together that I wouldn't be born. Holy sh*. They were being emotionally abused by their dad. None of which means you owe them anything. It might mean at some point in future you might want to hear them out, but you have no obligation to do so. Not the a-hole. An apology now does not undo a lifetime of hurt and mistreatment. You can choose to have nothing to do with them in the same way they chose it all those years ago. You do you. Exactly. And the way OP's parents have linked apologizing and being in OP's life is terrible. Asking OP to consider listening to an apology is one thing. Expecting that she would then spend time with and build a relationship with them is another thing completely. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe. Update. Am I the a-hole because I don't want my half-brothers to come on a trip with my uncle and I? Original post. I, 15 male, have 3 older half-brothers. Twins Max and Jake, 18 males, and Shane, 16 male. We have the same mother, but they have a different father. Max, Jake, and Shane's father is very involved in their lives, and they live with him every other week. On the other hand, I have a deadbeat, absent father that I never see. I have no relationship with my half-brother's father. My half-brothers definitely do not treat me the same way they treat each other. I have friends who have older brothers who are supportive, hang out with them, and are there for them, but mine are nothing like that. Often when Max, Jake, and Shane are at their dad's, I spend the weekend with my uncle, my mom's brother. Because of that, my uncle and I are very close. One of the things we do together is watch NASCAR since he's made me a fan. It's our thing. As far as I know, my half-brothers don't watch NASCAR. I've never watched a race with them at least. Next week, Max, Jake, and Shane were supposed to be at their dad's. My uncle was going to take me to the NASCAR race in Atlanta that weekend, just him and me. However, my brother's dad has to go away on a business trip, meaning they aren't going to their dad's next week. Since they'll be here, my uncle also invited them to come to the Atlanta race with us. I don't want them to come. When they went to Europe, Florida, skiing, New York, or any of the other trips they take with their dad, I didn't get invited. They go away with him 2 or 3 times a year. I've never been away because my mom can't afford it. This will actually be my first time on a plane. They get everything. This was one thing I had, just my uncle and me, and he just invited them. Since they're going, I no longer want to go, and I'm considering telling my uncle that tomorrow. When he told me they were coming, he could see I wasn't happy. He knows how I feel about my relationship with them. But he said, since they're home, he can't not invite them. It wouldn't be fair. But it's not my fault their dad is going away. I know my uncle can't uninvite them now, so I really think I just prefer to stay home and not go. Would I be the a-hole if I told my uncle I don't want to go and instead stayed home? Not going is very much a cutting off your nose to spite your face move. I completely understand the desire, but it only means your half-brothers get yet another thing you miss out on, and this time, it was your own choice. You'll damage your relationship with your uncle, and sow the seeds for even deeper resentment. Ideally, your uncle would recognize the action as the cry for help that it is, and take action to help you feel better, but the fact is, that's more likely to happen if you communicate your feelings clearly than if you stubbornly deny yourself the trip. Definitely don't want to damage my relationship with my uncle. For what it's worth, I also don't want to make my relationship with my half-brothers worse than it is either. No a-holes here. I understand your half-brothers are enjoying things you're not because of their dad. However, you have to look at this from your uncle's perspective. He has 4 nephews. Not 1 nephew and 3 half-nephews, but 4. He is helping his sister by providing things for you because she can't afford trips, while her other kids are getting very nice trips. If he were to only take 1 nephew, the other 3 may feel as if you are being favored over them. If you truly don't want to go, then don't, but you shouldn't let the presence of your half-brothers ruin something that you would enjoy. Now for the update. After reading the comments, I realized it wasn't my place to ask my uncle not to invite my brothers, as he is also their uncle. Also, if I chose not to go, I would just be denying myself something I really wanted to do and would upset my uncle, which I didn't want. So I decided to go to the NASCAR race. I also decided against saying anything further at that time. In the days before we left, it felt like my brothers were being nicer than usual, so that was cool. They added me to their group chat so that it would be easier to keep in contact on the trip, the reason they gave. I roomed with one of my older brothers, Max, in the hotel. On Saturday, we went to the racetrack for the first races. I was getting food when I accidentally cut the line. I thought the people standing in front had already ordered. Someone pointed it out to me, and I went to the right spot in line. There was a guy in line who was super mad, going on about how I was a little a-hole and only apologized because I got caught. He walked up to me yelling. Then Max appeared and told the guy to calm down and to stop yelling at me. He kept yelling at me, and Max stood between me and the guy and told him, if you say another thing to my little brother, we're going to have a problem. The guy finally backed off. I've never seen Max as mad as he was right then over that guy yelling at me, and it meant a lot the way he jumped in. Back in our hotel room that night, I was thanking Max again for standing up for me earlier, and he told me that as his brother, he'd always do that for me. It seemed like the right moment, so I finally took the advice and opened up to him. I told him that I wished he, Jake, Shane, and I hung out more together, and that I'd like to do more stuff with them. We talked for a long time about our relationship. Max then talked to Shane and Jake, because the next day, they both apologized for me having felt left out as well. When we flew back home, Max had told Jake more of what I had said. He asked me if he could first. Jake and I went out on Tuesday and talked about it a bunch, and he kept apologizing for letting me down. I told him it was probably mutual and that I didn't act like I wanted to spend time with them. But he told me he was my big brother and should have been better. We've all agreed to do better going forward. Kind of funny that it was a drunk guy yelling at me that got me to open up in the end. This is the best update I've ever seen on here. Thank you for taking the time to update. I've been wondering how everything went. I'm really glad you enjoyed the racing and also that your brothers will try to include you more. Cheers, mate. The races were so cool to see in person. My driver almost won on Sunday too. I've noticed that a great way for family to mend an issue is coming together because of an outsider. I think it takes a them to bring out the sense of us. I've never had a stranger shout at me in public like that before. I'm glad he walked away after Max said that, because I'm pretty sure Max was serious about there being a problem if he shouted at me again. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not taking one for the team and not paying for my sister-in-law and her family to come on our spring break trip? Twice a year, my wife, 3 kids, and I go on a trip with just us. During spring break, it is a domestic trip. During the summer, it is an international trip. These 2 trips are my favorite things we do throughout the year. We live very frugally throughout the year, but during these trips, we go all out. The money for the trips comes from separate, non-marital passive income I have from a family commercial real estate business. And in case anyone mention it, we have a prenup. After our trip last summer, my sister-in-law, wife's sister, told my wife that she and her husband were going to save up and come on next year's trips, the 2025 trips, with their 2 kids. My wife didn't push back. I heard about this a couple of months later and was quite frustrated. I do not like my sister-in-law at all. It's a long story. My wife convinced me to be okay with it by explaining that they would get their own accommodations and that aside from some shared meals, I wouldn't need to spend much time with her. Well, in January, my brother-in-law's job issued a return to the office directive. He had been working remotely and lived out of state from his office. They offered a short window for anyone who did not want to return to resign and receive a good severance package. He resigned and took the severance. After that happened, they decided they could not come on the trip. There is a chance they will need to sell their house and move in with my in-laws. About 2 weeks ago, my mother-in-law, wife, and sister-in-law were spending the day together. My sister-in-law kept bringing up how upset she was about the whole situation and how much she had been looking forward to the trip. My mother-in-law pulled my wife aside and said, "I know y'all can pay for the trip. Just pay for it." So my wife offered for us to pay for it. After my wife told me this, I was livid. I said, "You want me to pay for the terrible experience of doing this trip with your sister? No, I will not do it under any circumstances. This is a 2 yes and 1 no situation. I am a no, so she isn't coming. My wife thinks I should take one for the team and pay. I refuse. I do feel bad for her kids, but I am not paying for the displeasure of being around my sister-in-law. Heck, I have even offered to take just her kids on a trip. I would be fine with that. They can stay with us. But right now, I am left with either effectively doubling the cost of the trip or having them stay with us, which goes against the reason I agreed to let her come in the first place. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. If mother-in-law wants her to go so bad, she can pay for them. Not the a-hole. You start this and they will expect to go on every vacation you go. Your sister-in-law's finances aren't your responsibility. Paying sets a bad precedent, and you even offered to take her kids. Your money, your choice. Hope she won't be able to figure out how to access it if she's motivated. Unless she is willing to commit bank fraud, she cannot access it. She is not on the account at all. And if she did that, it would be immediate divorce, in a state with no alimony. Does sister-in-law work or is she a stay-at-home mom? She is stay-at-home mom. They have a 3-year-old. You're the a-hole. Sounds like you can easily afford to help them out. You just don't want to because it would be a terrible experience for you. This is not for your sister-in-law. It is for your wife and her relationship with her family. By helping out the sister-in-law, you're letting your wife come through for her family and enjoy the trip without feeling guilty about her sister the whole time. I rather get hit in the gonads than go on a trip where I am paying for my sister-in-law to be my company. I put up with being around her enough. Next story. Am I the a-hole for saying I wouldn't take care of my sister's kids and doing what I said? So, my sister Linda, 30, and I, 22, female, have never had a good relationship. We have been arguing for as long as I can remember. She loves being around people, and when we lived together, she would often invite friends and our family over. We always had something to celebrate. I don't like all that. I prefer silence. She also often borrowed my things, and her friends would come into my room without asking, etc. When I was 16, we had a huge fight about her wedding. Since then, I have limited my contact with her. I never speak to her first, and we never talk at family gatherings. I haven't gone to her birthday party for years, and I haven't invited her to mine. I also barely know her children, 5 males and 3 females. I mostly see them only during the holidays. But on February 15th, my mother told me that Linda would be bringing her children the next day and that I would take care of them. I was confused. I never agreed to this, and I already had plans for that day. I said I wouldn't do it. My mother said she'd talk to Linda. Then Linda called me and said she was going to drop the kids off anyway. I said that if she did that, her kids would be home alone. She didn't care. The next day, Linda showed up with her children. She tried to explain their schedule to me, and every time, I told her, I'm leaving the house. I'm not taking care of your children. She didn't listen to me and left. After about 10 to 15 minutes, my friends showed up. I sent Linda a picture of me sitting in their car and said, take your kids. I'm leaving. I also sent this to her husband and then turned off my phone. When I returned at 8 p.m., my parents were quiet, but I could tell they were not happy. The next day, Linda showed up at our house and started yelling at me. She called me lazy and said I could have hurt her kids. I said I did exactly what I said I would do. We argued for about 2 hours, but when I asked her where she had to go and why she chose me of all people, she couldn't answer and just started yelling at me again. I later told my friends about it, and they were divided. Some said I had done nothing wrong, but others were a bit annoyed and said that if they had known we were leaving the kids, they wouldn't have gone anywhere with me. Just to clarify, the reason I didn't leave right away was because A, I still wasn't ready, and B, my friends weren't there yet. I also didn't let Linda into the house. She has the keys. It is not my house, it is our parents' house. Why would Linda or your mom try to force you to watch kids given your relationship with Linda? Asinine. Not the a-hole. Your mom and Linda put Linda's kids at risk. You did exactly what you said you were going to do, and had you stayed and watched them, this would have been the first of a long line of stomped boundaries. I wish I knew because she had never tried it before. Info. Because I'm nosy, if you don't mind sharing, what was the wedding day fight about? She wanted to have her wedding on the other side of the country, in her husband's parents' city. At that time, I didn't know I had IBS, but traveling was a huge problem for me, and I said I didn't want to do it. Then it also turned out that she wanted to put me in the same room as her husband's cousin, who was older than me. I wasn't her bridesmaid or anything, so I wanted to wear a plain blue dress, but she said no. She chose a dress for me that, A, was expensive, and she expected me to cover at least 50% of it. B, was a total nightmare that had everything I hate. Elbow-length sleeves, bows, a cream color, and barely reach my knees. She also wanted me to wear jewelry, even though she knew it always caused sensory problems for me and made me scratch myself until there was blood. Linda wanted to have her speech, and during it, she wanted our family picture on the wall. She wanted to take some from my private album, but I refused. She also wanted to place me between her husband's parents, literally between them. On my left, his mother. On my right, his father, and some other things. It all sounded like a nightmare, so I told her I wouldn't come. She didn't like that answer. Last story. Am I the a-hole for showing my dad proof that my mom would have been disgusted with him giving my half-sister any of her jewelry? My mom died when I, 18 female, was 11. My dad started another relationship a year later, got remarried when I was 14, and my half-sister was born a few months later. When she was 2, my dad made a big deal out of choosing a ring and a necklace that had been my mom's and saving them for my half-sister. At the time, I asked my dad what he was thinking and why he wouldn't let me have all of it. My mom had already given me the things she most wanted me to have, but as her only child, I thought it made sense that I'd get the rest. My dad said we were both his daughters, and he did it because he wanted to share his love for my mom with my half-sister. We fought over his decision, and I told him I'd never support it. I also said that if he had any more daughters, I wouldn't support it then either. Right now, he has my half-sister 4, and my half-brother 18-month-old. Around that time, I had started reading the journals my mom kept when she was sick. She was sick for about 5 months overall. Her journals showed how scared she was, but they also shared how certain she was that my dad would marry again and have more kids, and how sad it made her. The one thing that luckily didn't happen was another woman moving into the home she had made perfect for us, because we moved after she died. But she wrote a few pages about hoping that his new wife and any future kids wouldn't get her things. She wanted everything to go to me, if my dad didn't want to keep some of it and then pass it on to me. She even wrote about this in the page where she mentioned gifting me the jewelry she did. She wanted me to have a memory of her sharing that with me, and she didn't think giving a 10 or 11-year-old all that jewelry at once would have made sense. She even wrote that she talked to my dad about wanting me to have all of it. I sat on it for so long because I didn't want the fight that I knew would happen when I made him confront it. But recently, I brought it up. I moved in with my grandpa in November when I turned 18, and the space from my dad helped some. But when my dad came to see me a couple of weeks ago, he told me he wanted me to embrace the fact that my half-sister has some of my mom's jewelry, and he wanted me to show her the things I have when she's a little older, so we could connect over it. That's when I brought up what my mom wrote, and I even showed him. He asked me where I got the journals, and I said they were in a box of papers and other things. I told him he knew my mom had wanted me to have it all, and I said that her words and how often she brought it up showed that she would be disgusted by his decision, just like I was. My dad got upset and told me it was cruel to throw this in his face. We argued about it. He was hurt. He said that seeing my mom write so much about how much she didn't want him to find happiness with anyone else or have more children stung, that he would have wanted that for her. And the fact that I was so happily throwing all of that in his face, along with the fact that this all started because an innocent little girl got some jewelry, made him incredibly disappointed in me. I told him I wasn't going to let him believe that my mom would have wanted or supported this. My dad's wife was mad about his emotional state after he got home. Apparently, the journals bothered him, and the fact that I took the stance I did angers her, because she feels like I'm being selfish and cruel to my half-siblings. She didn't explain why. She also thinks I'm being unfair to my dad, who now has 3 kids instead of just me, and who wanted to share his love for my mom with their kids, something she struggled with but ultimately understood. She texted me a few nights ago, telling me that my dad is losing sleep over it all now, and it's all my fault. She sarcastically said I should be proud of myself. Am I the a-hole? Share his love with all his kids. All of your mom's belongings are yours alone. That's how it should have been, but that won't be happening now. You need clear boundaries with your father. This is super damaging. You're only 18. He may have moved on, but the loss of your mom will stick with you for the rest of your life. That's something I'll need to work on for sure. I'm getting better at it, I think, but lots of room to grow and improve. Not the a-hole. Why is he sharing your mom's love with kids who didn't even know her? All the jewelry should be yours, and I hope you get the items back that he's given to your half-sister. Right now, it's not looking likely. He seems to want me to give in and let my half-sister keep them.